All right, welcome to Game 6 of the Sonic 25th Anniversary run here. We just finished Sonic Heroes, and now we're moving to its direct sequel, at least story-wise and chronologically, game production-wise, Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow the Hedgehog was something of a deviation from the Sonic formula. While Shadow will behave a lot like Sonic normally does, with a homing attack, running through loops, collecting rings, doing all that sort of stuff. He will also be given an element that heretofore Sonic games really hadn't indulged in, unless you count Dr. Eggman or Gamma from Adventure 1 or the Max from Adventure 2, and that is incorporating a third-person shooting element into Sonic. Shadow was a game designed sort of, again, to break away from some of these conventions, to see what the brand could do, and it was done with the fail-safe that if it didn't work, you know, they could always sort of get rid of Shadow the Hedgehog as a character without having to worry about ruffling too many feathers, if they had screwed up in this way with Sonic. So this is a game that indulges in a bunch of things that are kind of weird and outside the Sonic universe. For instance, these guys. These are the Black Arms. They're aliens. It turns out they had something to do with Shadow's creation back when he was being developed on board the Ark, as we found out in Adventure 2. Clearly, they have some use for him, even if Shadow doesn't necessarily know what they want. I'll remind you this is the same Shadow who was in Heroes, so a character who has some grasp over what needs to happen, but not necessarily entirely so. And get used to seeing that diagram right there. That's going to keep track of our story path. Now, every story path starts here in Westopolis. But to leave Westopolis, you can do one of three things. You can either fulfill a heroic mission, usually killing lots of aliens. You can fulfill the villain mission, or evil mission, or the alien mission if you want to be about it, in which case you have to kill a bunch of humans. Or the neutral mission just has you grab a Chaos Emerald at a particular point in the stage. The missions will change depending on the level, but that's how this one is designed. And we are going to be going after the neutral mission here in the first stage. And that's because I am going to attempt to do something that they say cannot be done. Now, I'm not going for a no-hit run or anything like that. That'll become pretty obvious enough. I am going to try to show you the game as the story is meant to play out. This game has, because of the different missions and the missions leading to different levels when you complete them, this game really has a choose-your-own-adventure feel. And so you can have Shadow go in whatever direction you wish. You can be pure good by following Sonic and his friends. You can be pure evil by following the whims of the aliens. Or you can be just sort of crazy, bouncing back and forth between good and evil at your own pace. Or you can just go on all the neutral missions. Since the neutral missions are the ones that usually send you toward the goal ring, and therefore the ones designed most like a Sonic Adventure style game, a lot of people prefer the neutral pathways. And we will be seeing a couple of the neutral pathway levels, but we will not be following a strictly neutral path here, even though that's usually the easiest thing to do on one's first playthrough of Shadow the Hedgehog. As you play through the levels, things will develop a little bit differently. And so cutscenes will be slightly different depending on the routes you take. The bosses you fight will be a little different too. And so right now we are skating around the level. Again, that's one of the big complaints associated with Shadow the Hedgehog, is that we brought the Sonic Heroes engine back. We also brought back its character models, which are a little bit brighter than the environments in which we're traversing. And so since Shadow was a slippery ice speed character in Heroes, you're also going to find that he's pretty much the same thing here. Now, we've killed enough aliens to fill up one of our gauges. This would be our hero gauge, and therefore we have access to Chaos Control, which is going to send us a little bit further into the level. If you fill up the villainous meter by killing a bunch of humans, then you'll be able to do Chaos Blast. However, there's a third alternative. If you fill up either meter and just never activate the superpower associated with it, you're invincible and you have unlimited ammo for as long as your meter holds up. And that's probably more useful than either of the other two things. So right now, even though we're on the neutral path, I'm pretty much only shooting aliens. I'm trying not to kill the humans. And the reason for that is, since Chaos Control makes you speed up, it sends you faster toward the goal ring. Meaning that Chaos Control, even though a heroic ability, is probably more useful to you in the neutral missions than it is in some of the hero missions. Particularly when the hero missions require you to go and find and kill all the aliens in the stage, and Chaos Control might send you too fast through a hallway where there might have been one or two hanging out in some sort of side room or something of that nature. Right. Other than the gun, which I've been trying to keep Shadow with the gun. In this case, I have an alien pistol of sorts. We're getting pretty close to the end. You can see the goal ring over there with the Chaos Emerald in the middle of it. We're going to cross over one more checkpoint, and then we're going to get there. Checkpoints and lives work differently with Shadow than they did with Heroes. Each checkpoint will give you 10 rings as you cross it. If you have 100 rings when you cross a checkpoint, you will be allowed, you'll start to accumulate extra lives. So this is the first game in the Sonic series where gaining 100 rings does not get you an extra life automatically. You sort of bank them up, and every time you pass go or a new checkpoint for the first time, you get extra lives there. So here we're into the story. Now we know the black aliens have invaded, and this is the man in charge of pushing them back. He's only known as the Gun Commander. He's got 2 differently colored eyes, and he's told Westopolis has just been destroyed and that Shadow is there. And for some reason this sets him off. And we're not really going to find out why it sets him off until later on in the level. Another thing I want to bring up before we leave Westopolis altogether. My hunch is that Westopolis is the city featured in Sonic Adventure 2, since the city that you run around in Sonic Adventure 2 is based off San Francisco. San Francisco is in the western part of the United States, and it seems to be fairly important. Whereas Central City is the capital of the United Federation, where Gun hangs out.
No one tells me what to do.
And now we catch up with Shadow, and Shadow and the voice of the aliens, the leader of the aliens, Black Doom. So Shadow has not followed Black Doom's instructions. Remember, those were to bring him the Chaos Emeralds. He's keeping them for himself. Black Doom doesn't understand why, except that he's starting to figure out that Shadow doesn't remember anything. And this will be important later, and then Black Doom is going to warp us into our next level. And because we followed the neutral path, we're going to end up going to Glyphic Canyon. And this is where our path will deviate from the neutral path. So Shadow is going to wake up on Glyphic Canyon, which is a series of temple ruins. But what they actually are, and they might help explain some of the temple ruins and some of the other games. But they actually are a hidden alien ship for whenever the aliens were going to plan to come back
Now it's up to me to
and take control. And so when you're on the alien, when you're on the ruins here that are actually the alien ship, you've got, once again, 3 different choices for the mission. You could run straight to the end, which would be the neutral mission, and that would, bring you back through. Or you could kill all the aliens, which would be the hero mission, and that would send you on the hero side, or on the hero side story, in the direction of, I think, the level with Tails in the Circus Park, which is one of my favorites just because it pairs up Shadow and Tails. You'll notice that Knuckles is hanging around with us right now, and he will for most of this level. If you're playing Shadow the Hedgehog and you've got another person with another controller, I believe, I haven't tested this for the Xbox, but it was true for the GameCube. I believe that your buddy could plug in a controller and take control of Knuckles. Now, Knuckles will have a limited amount of abilities. He'll only be able to run, jump, and homing attack. And every character that Shadow teams up with will be like this. But potentially, you could have a whole bunch of Shadow teams that were not possible in any other game. And Shadow and Tails is my personal favorite combination, even though we're not going to visit that level here in this playthrough. So which end are we going for? Well, the only one I haven't mentioned up to this. We are going to turn on the alien spaceship. Now you're going to ask, okay, why is that the right thing, or the right answer in a theoretical, canonic run of Shadow the Hedgehog? Well, the reason being is that you have to end up at Cryptic Castle. There are clues later in the game suggesting that Shadow's time at that Shadow's path included a trip to Cryptic Castle and a completion there of the hero mission. This is based on things that Cream and Cheese will say to Shadow that they could not say without that particular mission having been completed. So that suggests that that is part of Shadow's canonical path. And since we have to get there, then we have to do the evil mission here in Glyphic Canyon. So what's the connecting theory between what we were doing with Westopoulos by going the neutral path and then taking the evil path in Glyphic Canyon? In both cases, those are the first missions that Shadow can accomplish in those stages. Because the 5th, and there I picked up the Chaos Control, but because I have to hit this little green orb floating up here, I'm not going to take advantage of it for its true value. I'm just going to be invincible for a little while. So my theory is that when you do these stages, what you're really doing is you're doing the pathway of least resistance. What can Shadow accomplish first? And then that's the mission that you do. Kill the human there. Even though I'm on the evil mission, it's just not in my. I just don't like the idea of helping the aliens all that much. So I'll turn on their little spaceship. But I'm not gonna do their dirty work for them in the sense of killing humans. I realize that it's only a small step away from turning on their spaceship to having the spaceship kill all the humans, but this is the way that we're going to justify it. Story-wise, think of it like this. So Shadow goes and gets the first Chaos Emerald in Westopoulos. Then he's confronted by Black Doom, who says, okay, you really need to listen to what we tell you to do. And then Black Doom demonstrates his power by sending him over here to Glyphic Canyon. So I figure that demonstration of power is good enough for Shadow to fulfill one mission for the aliens. And then at the end of this pathway, we're going to end up in Cryptic Castle. And Shadow is going to be rerouted again. Now, there are a couple of points in this stage where you're fighting with flying objects like this. This is the second time, and then you get ripped into a tornado. You just got to be careful to avoid the objects, usually by hanging out on one side or the other. And I picked the wrong side on that last tornado. Now, this is an interesting problem here. Now, the thing that we need to access is up there, on top of the altar. You can see it, right? And as I keep getting hit by the little spawnlings or whatever these things are, you might ask, okay, well, why are you bothering to kill the aliens and just go get the thing? Well, that's because there's a box right there. You see that glowing orange box? That glowing orange box only stops being glowing and orange when all the aliens are dead. And strangely, that's the thing that I need in order to access that particular part of the stage.
When this temple is awakened.
So we fulfilled the dark mission, but you'll notice that, you know, our hero scored much better than our dark score just because of the number of aliens we killed. Gave us a C rank for the dark mission. I've gotten an A rank on Glyphic Canyon for both the neutral and the hero missions. So we might have been somewhere in the same boat. And now you get to meet the president, who's receiving information that the black aliens are forced back from Westopolis. Again, because we didn't help them. Something's gone wrong with CIA's computer. Now, if we'd taken the evil path in Westopolis, that would have been us messing around with the CIA's computer. We got the president making his big speech. You know, because everybody watches Air Force One. And the picture on his desk of Sonic and Shadow, supposedly taken post-Heroes, because we're not really sure any other time that that picture would have been taken. Certainly not after Adventure 2, when Shadow was presumed dead. And so we'll leave things with one more cutscene. And this is Shadow arriving at the end of an information trail in the castle of Dr. Eggman, which you saw in Sonic Heroes. And so we're going to make a return visit here, and we'll start off at this location next time. See you then.